Sir, Dr. Joydeb Ganguly Memorial Foundation jointly presenting the lecture of Dr. Kripa Mukherjee. Uh, she will deliver her lecture on Prohibition and Injunction of Polygamy according to Medhatithi school. Uh, this subject is very uh, living today also. So I invite Dr. Kripa Mukherjee to deliver her lecture. Dr. Joydeb Memorial, seventh lecture. She will presenting now. She will present now.
Am I audible, sir? Am I audible?
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you so much, sir, for inviting me to this online lecture and giving me the opportunity to talk about the system of polygamy. Thanks to all of my teachers and professors for guiding me in every step of my research works. So, the topic of today's lecture is Injunction and Prohibition of Polygamy according to Medhatithi's law. Medhatithi, the renowned commentator of Manusmriti, made some laws or principles out of the code of polygamy promulgated by Manu. The main objective of this paper is to analyze them. Medhatithi happened to be a denizen of Kashmir during the 9th century. I would therefore like to focus on the history of the medieval Kashmir of the period of time ranging between the 9th and 10th century here. Generally, we come to know the history of Kashmir of the period between 800 and 1150 century from the historical literature entitled Rajtarangini, authored by Kahlana. It transpired from an analysis of the history of the time that the kings reigning then in Kashmir, nay, North India, had more than one wife in their respective scenarios. After the death of Shankar Barman, his wife Surendravati and also other two wives become Shati. Shankar Barman, the son of Avanti Barman, who founded the Utpala dynasty. Medhatithi was the contemporary of the king Shankar Barman, who reigned for the period 883 to 902 century. So, the fact proves that polygamy prevailed enormously in the society during the lifetime of Medhatithi. If we shift from North India and look at the whole of India, we find that polygamy existed in the ancient Indian society, especially among the affluent, thanks to the influence of the Muslim community. Dharma was the cardinal factor that mainly regulated the ancient Indian society. As regards the characteristics of dharma, Mimamsa Darshana observe Chodona Lakshana Artha Dharma. That is, the activity relating to pursuit of the desired object of a man, as explained in the Vedas, is dharma itself. So, jago, homo, dano, etc., as prescribed in the Vedas, are dharma, as these alone make one achieve one's desired object, that is, Shargo or heaven. Now, who is entitled to perform this jago? The scriptures give the verdict that a married man, along with his wife, is entitled to perform such sacrificial rites. The term Dampati means husband and wife. The term Damo means wife. So, as the term Dampati means husband and wife together, so both of them in union shall perform the rites of sacrifice. Other men and women shall not simply do this. The feminine gender patni is derived from the word pati, according to the grammar authored by Panini, as patni happens to be the accomplice of pati while performing religious rites, and she is also the co-sharer of the fruit of jajna. The Sutra Potturna Jajna Sanjoge explains all this. Tago is the cardinal factor in jajna. This sacrifice is not possible for one alone performing such rites. Dharmecha, arthecha, kamecha, na charitabhya. According to the scriptural rule, all the assets belonging to both husband and wife are linked together. No one can individually perform any religious rite. Both of them must do this together. Sacrifice done by the husband or the wife alone does not ensure the cessation of ownership. The Vedas declare Agni and Shama the similar god, Eko Devoto. Similarly, both the husband and the wife together share the authority in performing jajna as well as the fruits achieved thereupon. The main purpose of marriage is to ignite the fire, accept a woman as Varja, and thereby be worthy of being entitled to achieve both visible and invisible Purushartha, Trishta or Adrishta Purushartha. Sexual intercourse with a woman other than one's wife is forbidden by the scripture. So, when a man does sex with his own wife without going to another woman and thus gets relieved of his sexual desire, the marriage gets worthy of visible purushartha or drishta purushartha. Another aspect of visible purushartha is the production of offspring. With the very birth of a male child, the father is entitled to reach heaven. The male child who delivers his father from the hell called Put is called the Putra. Here the son means the male child born out the womb of Dharma Patni, the wife married through religious rites. Such sons are duly acknowledged by dint of scriptures. They are entitled to offer oblation to deceased ancestors and therefore worthy of inheriting father's property. Such a son repays the debt, if any, due from his father, performs the rituals like yajna, and thus broadens the avenues of earthly and celestial happiness. In the beginning of the Vedic era, the system of marriage prevalent in the society was generally monogamy. The Rig Veda does not corroborate any instance that encourages polygamy. Again, afterwards, polygamy has not been prescribed by many Dharma Sutras. Nonetheless, some scriptures, however, mention the instances of polygamy, and hence it might be assumed that polygamy existed in the society. The main purpose of this paper would be to focus on the desirability of accepting polygamy in the society or not at all, although approved by scriptures through an analysis of various laws as promulgated by Medhatithi. Medhatithi took the help of various maxims of the philosophy of Purva Mimamsa in order to analyze the laws incorporated in the Manusmriti and made them suitable for the age. Although the Purva Mimamsa has not much to teach and does not rise to any high level on the burning question of philosophy, such as the creation of the world, a personal God, the moral government of the world on the soul. Yet it has considerable claims to be regarded a system on account of its peculiar doctrines about the eternity of the Vedas, its doctrines of words, its theory about the import of words and sentences, and its peculiar method of argumentation. There is besides another matter which entitles the Mimamsa system to respect. It has elaborated rules of the interpretation of texts that are of a permanent value. These rules are not confined to the sphere of Dharma Shastra and become the guide in determining the everyday religious observances of the people and their civil rights in various issues such as inheritance, adoption, partition, etc. It is due to this feature that one is almost tempted to observe that the study of Dharmashastra cannot be said to be adequate or even complete without the proper knowledge of the science of Purva Mimamsa, which is more known as the science of Vedic interpretation to the Pandits who are well versed in diverse disciplines of Sanskrit learning. It is further remarked that the proper application of the Mimamsa rules of interpretations helps one to remove contradictions in the mutually contradictory texts of Dharma Shastra and also to assign proper scope to the texts. The fact that Mimamsa is an investigation of text in order to evolve an orderly system for their interpretation as a harmonious whole brings it immediately into contact with legal interpretation. And the parallel is made the closer in that the chief object of the Mimamsa is to determine injunctions which are distinct from those of civil and civil law mainly in the fact that they deal with sacrificial rather than civil obligation and are enforced by spiritual rather than temporal penalties. The first The well-known commentator on Manusmriti is Medhatithi. He shows himself an adept in the Mimamsa principles. Medhatithi argues that one can understand the proper intention of the Manava Dharma Shastra with the help of Mimamsa Shastra. How Mimamsa logic works. Mimamsa divides the entire Veda consisting of mantra and brahmana into four types based on the assumption that the Vedas are self-validating and do not require any external tool for their validation. The four types are Vidhi, Nishedho, Namodhyo and Orthobado. Vedic sentences commanding or ordaining specific actions not previously known or validated by any other tool are vidhi or injunction. That is, one should perform Agnihotra Jago. The suggestion to do this is totally unknown till heard from Veda. This sentence tells one to do something, stating it in the affirmative. So it is termed vidhi or injunction. Vidhi has many subtypes: utpatti vidhi, vinyoga vidhi, adhikara vidhi, prayoga vidhi, niyama vidhi, and parishankha vidhi. While an injunction directs a positive act, a prohibition serves to turn a man away from performing the action expressed in the verb and its object. The prohibition does not lead to any desirable result, such as heaven. It serves nonetheless a useful purpose. The man who obeys the direction not to eat the mysterious kolonjo, no kolonjang bhakshayit, by observing this taboo escapes the hell which else had been his fate. In the technical phraseology of the Mimamsa, the negative applies not to the sense of the verb, but to the optative affects. Optative urges us to action, so a negative optative turns away from it. Of the Vedic texts, the Brahmanas afford the immediate material for the extraction of the injunctions, which are the essential part of the Veda. But they contain also passages which cannot be treated as dealing with either positive or negative injunctions and are classed either as explanatory matter, orthobado, or named namodheo. The orthobado at first sight seems not to be entitled to authority, but Kumarilo and Prabhakaro alike defend its validity. The latter against the charge that such sentences are inexpressive since they are not construed with injunctive verbal forms. The value of the orthobado, both hold, lies in it either extolling desirable or censuring forbidden acts. It, it thus comes into immediate connection with injunction or prohibition. Sage Monu mentions two opposing injunctions of marriage in his Smriti Shastra. Although the monogamy is the general rule or the base form of conjugal life, according to him, at first the twice born classes should marry a wife of the same caste. Udbahito dijo bharjang Shabarnang Lakshmananitam. But if they wait to marry again, then the daughter of different caste should be preferred. Shabarnagre Dijatinam Prashasta Daru Karmani Kamatastu Pravrittinam Imaha Shukarmusho. For example, Brahmana married Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, the wife of these four classes: Kshatriya married, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, the wife of these three classes, and Vaishya married, Vaishya, and Shudra, the wife of these two classes. So, here two types of injunction have been mentioned. According to the first injunction, it is said about the oneness of marriage of the twice born classes, Udbahitu Dijo Bharjam Shavarnam Lakshmananitam. And the other injunction is said about the polygamy marriage of them, Shavarnagre Dijatinam Prashasta Darukarmani Kamotastu Prabrittinam Ima Shukarmosho. Here, two types of injunction. Now, the question arises on this matter that twice born person shall take a wife, Udbahitu Dijo Bharjam. In this injunction, Udbahitu Dijo Bharjam, twice born person shall take a wife. In this injunction, the word wife or Bharjam refers to a wife or to many wives. For instances, it is said in the Shruti, in respect of Jyotishtama Jago, cleanses the cup with the strainer made of white wool. Here, it is essentially important to note if the term cup, which refers to a singular number or not. If the cup refers to a singular number, then cleansing any one cup out of the many cups will do. Again, if the singularity of the said term is not specified, then all the cups need cleansing. In this case, uh, in the case of the injunction, cleanse the cup. Though the cup here refers to singular number, but all references are based upon what is previously known. Thus, in connection with the cups, their number is already known from such statements as the morning extraction, the Adhurju takes up 10 cups, and their use also is already known from the statement that libations are poured with the cups. Hence, in the subsequent statement, cleanse the cup, no significance is attached to the singular number in the word cup. This statement is being constructed in connection with what is already known about it. On the other hand, twice born person shall take a wife. In this injunction, the word bharjam or wife has not been determined by the other statement. In fact, it is known only from the present text that what the wife is. Hence, we understand it exactly as it is here described. So, due significance is to be attached to the number just as much as to the basic noun itself. Further, we note the use of singular number in case of incantation of marriage. While performing the ritual ceremonies of marriage, the incantations pronounced in order to place the newly married bride are, O bride, as the powerful sea has spread its empire upon the rivers, so you become an empress in the house of your husband. যথা সিন্ধুর নদীনাং সাম্রাজ্যং শুশুবে বৃষা এবা তং সম্রাজ্ঞেধি পুত্তুরস্তং পরেত্য. And the next mantra is, O bride, be the empress to your father-in-law, mother-in-law, sister-in-law, and brother-in-law. সম্রাজ্ঞী শ্বশুরে ভব, সম্রাজ্ঞী শস্ত্রাং ভব, ননান্দরী সম্রাজ্ঞী ভব, সম্রাজ্ঞী অধিদেব ঋষু. The incantations of the Vedas invoke the bride as Empress, Shamraggi Shoshure Bhavo, Shamraggi Shasrang Bhavo, which is a singular number. So, the injunction of singularity of marriage is expressly hinted here. The significance of the word wife or bharjam is being attached to the singular number. If twice one person wants to marry second time, even though the marriage rites might be duly performed, she does not become a wife. For example, Medhatithi, the renowned commentator of Manusmriti, said in his commentaries, when one Ahabaniya is already there, the second fire, even though duly kindled, does not become Ahabaniya. But under certain circumstances, the taking of a second wife is considered desirable. The rule of second marriage is propounded by the Medhatithi by following verses. Medhatithi quoted Gautama's verse and said, if one's wife is endowed with virtue and offspring, one should not take another wife. If one of these 2 points is not possible by the wife, then one may take another. ধর্ম প্রজা সম্পন্নে তারে নান্যাং কুর্বিত অন্য তরা পাইতু কুর্বিত ইতি Aposthambo, in Aposthambo Dharmasutra, Aposthambo also declares the same rule of second marriage. Aposthambo Dharmasutra declares that when a man has a wife who is endowed with dharma and progeny, he shall not marry another wife. But if any one of these two is not possible by the wife, he may marry another before he has consecrated the sacred Srota fires. Since the ancient period of time, polygamy marriage has been approved for men in the Shastra. The main instability of women in the married life was because of the co-wife position at home. The Shastra that supports polygamy marriage of men has strictly forbidden for women. The ancient Smriti Shastrakara Monu also prohibited the polygamy marriage of women, and he says even if the husband is of bad character or corrupted, she will continue to observe fidelity to him till the rest of her life, because Patibrata is the highest duty of a virtuous wife. So, the responsibility of wife is to serve her husband till the end of her life. Even if the husband dies, she will abandon the association of another person and refrain from marrying again. So, their main purpose is to observe the strict brahmacharya. Since there is no prohibition of polygamy for men in the Shastra, therefore, Medhatithi has mentioned two conditions of polygamy without completely opposing it. He said that if for some reason the affection for wife does not arise, or if a child does not born, then one may take another wife. Before discussing Medhatithi's thoughts on polygamy, three important aspects should be carefully noted. First, the individual idea or own discourse. Secondly, adherence to the main text. Thirdly, the contemporary system prevailing in the place. While expressing his own ideas, Medhatithi did not acknowledge polygamy as quoted in the scriptures? Absolutely. He spoke of two conditions in this respect. He said that polygamy might be considered legitimate if only one condition of the two was present. Again, as he expressed his adherence to the main text, he could not completely resist or prohibited polygamy. If we review the history of Kashmir of the 9th century, we find that polygamy prevailed at a large scale among the king and the affluent. So, although Medhatithi could not prevent or prohibited the polygamy of a man completely, but he tried, of course, to reduce or minimize it. Monu has mentioned some of the reasons for husband's remarriage, even in the existence of his wife. Husband is legally permitted to marry a second wife if the wife is a drunkard or false in conduct or rebellious or diseased or mischievous or wasteful. She should be superseded. মদ্যপা অসাধু বৃত্তা চ প্রতিকূলা চ যা ভবেৎ ব্যাধিতা ব্যাধি বেত্তব্যা হিংস্রার্থগ্নি চ সর্বদা. Chakravalko also says that a husband may supersede a wife and marry another if she drinks wine, suffers from an incurable disease, is deceitful, is extravagant in expenditure, speaks harsh words, and gives birth to female children only. The barren wife shall be superseded in the 8th year, in the 10th, whose children die off, in the 11th, who bears only daughters, but immediately who talks harshly. Even Kautilya prescribes that a husband should wait for 8 years if his wife is barren. He should wait for 10 if she bears only stillborn children. 12 years if she gives birth to daughters only. Then, if he is anxious for a son, he may marry another. But here the issue of polygamy is applicable to such cases where the husband abandoned his wife without any reason. So, Medhatithi has mentioned two types of condition of polygamy marriage. If any one of these conditions is present, then then the husband abandons his wife and marries another. Therefore, the wife should never be abandoned in absence of therefore the wife should never be abandoned in absence of any reason by her husband. They should be protected with dignity at all times because there should be no difference between the wife and wealth in the house. Stri and Sri. Monu prescribes that the man who abandons and does not maintain his parents, wife, and son when they are not outcast should be fined 600 panas. According to Jaggobalko, if a man abandoned a wife who was obedient, diligent, the mother of a son, and agreeable in speech, was to be made to give 1/3 of his property to the wife. But if he had no property, he had to maintain her. Naroda has a similar provision. Twice born person shall take a wife, and who takes it through mere desire. In Sanskrit, Udvahito Dijobharja and Kamotastu Prabrittinam Ima. In these two verses, oneness and plurality of marriage may sometimes seem to be as alternative rule, but it's never possible because according to Purva Mimamsa, the alternative rules have 8 problems, so that which is faulty is never acceptable. Evidence of polygamy that existed in the society since ancient times has been found in case of the distribution of property among the sons born from the wives of the same and different castes. Monu has said about the right to property among the sons born from the many wives of one person. If a Brahmana has 4 wives, the son of the Brahmani, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra wife shall take 4, 3, 2, and 1 share respectively. According to Medhatithi, we find a totally different or certain particular kinds of division of property in this verse. The land acquired from gifts shall not be given to the son of the Kshatriya mother. And if any such land has been given by the father to him, it shall be taken by the Brahmana son on the death of father. The land acquired by purchase and other means do not become similarity excluded. The son of Shudra is forbidden to share more than a tenth part of a property, but it is not forbidden to give him something for his livelihood. This system is implemented in the same place where the father's property is abundant. And if the father's wealth is not enough, then the rule of tenth part of property will be followed. Polygamy was generally practiced by the kings, nobles, and rich people only who were more anxious to keep their members intact within the family cell. But in that case, also the wife belonging to the same caste of her husband enjoyed special privilege. The inability of the woman to bear a male child was considered as the vital reason for the practice of polygamy. It was widely believed among the ancient Indians that a person should never die without a son, and therefore failure on the part of the wife to produce a son necessitated that the husband should take number of wives for securing a son who could continue his line of generation along with the offspring of Pindus to confer peace of his soul. That apart, sensuality of man, quick aging of the female, economic causes, a sense of prestige, imbalance of sex ratio, etc., are also considered to have been the causes of polygamy. There is no doubt that sometimes the right of having more than one wife is abused by men, but it is due to social causes and its reaction has now led to the result that monogamy is the rule and polygamy an exception. Now the question arises if one could marry again a woman of the same caste in the event of polygamy, the answer is there is no prohibition of second marriage of the same caste wife because the injunction of the oneness of marriage be obstructed by the rule of the marriage of different caste. Gautama said that if there is failure in regard to either of the two, one may take another wife. In this statement of Gautama, the marriage of the same caste wife is not obstructed, so the marriage of same caste wife is permitted. In some special circumstances, second marriage has been approved for women along with men in many scriptures. Boshishto Dharma Sutra declares that a woman should wait for her husband gone out on a long journey for 5 years. Kautilya reduces this period to 10 months only. If the husband did not return within that time, within 5 years, and she was unwilling or unable to go out to join him, she should regard his as dead and unite herself with another member of same family or gotra. Similar permission is given by the Arthashastra of Kautilya, which requires judicial permission before contracting the second marriage. Jurists differ only about the period of waiting, which, however, never exceeds 8 years. Parashara, permission to remarry given to the wife of a person who is missing or is dead or become an ascetic or is impotent or has been degraded by sin. On the any of said five calamities, she can remarry. Noshte mrite probrojite klibe চ পতিতে পতৌ পঞ্চ সাপৎসু নারীণাং প্রতিরণ্য বিধীয়তে 428 in Parashara Smriti. Narada Smriti declares the same rule of second marriage of a wife. When her husband is lost or dead, when he has become a religious ascetic, when he is impotent, when he has been expelled from caste. In these cases, a woman may be justified in another husband. According to Garuda Purana, Garuda Purana declares in case of disappearance or death or impotent or lost caste status of her husband, in these four cases, a woman is allowed to take another wife. According to Agni Purana, women are allowed to have another husband in the following five adversaries. If the husband is lost, dead, has become an ascetic, impotent, or fallen morally, if the husband is dead, she should be given to the brother of the deceased. In the absence of brother, she should be given to anyone as one we wished. But in this case case of remarriage of a wife, Monu strictly prohibited the second marriage of a widow. He declares, মৃতে ভর্তুরি সাধ্বী শ্রী ব্রহ্মচর্যে ব্যবস্থিতা স্বর্গং গচ্ছত্য পুত্রাপি যথা তে ব্রহ্মচারিণ. মৃতে ভর্তুরি সাধ্বী শ্রী ব্রহ্মচর্যে ব্যবস্থিতা. On the death of her husband, the religious or virtuous wife takes brahmacharya, goes to heaven even though childless. But nowadays, polygamy is an offense under Indian Penal Code. After Hindu Marriage Act 1955 was notified, making monogamy a rule, the incidence of polygamy in Hindus is expected to have come down. This is especially crafted in the wordings of section 494 of IPC. According to Section 494 of Indian Penal Code, whoever having a husband or wife living, marriage in any case in which such marriage is void by reason of its taking place during the life of such husband or wife shall be punished with imprisonment of either description for a term which may extend to 7 years and shall also be liable to fine. Without divorce, second marriage is illegal under section 494 and 495 of the Indian Penal Code on the Indian IPC Act. If a person marries second time without a divorce while their spouse is alive, the marriage is considered bigamy, which is a punishable offense. Grounds of divorce as per the Hindu Marriage Act 1955 are adultery, cruelty, desertion, conversion, insanity, leprosy, venereal disease, renunciation, and presumption of death. Polygamy marriage was prevalent in the modern Indian society until the enhancement of Hindu Marriage Act 1955. It was mainly practiced by the rich people in the Indian society. Despite its social approval prior to the enactment of the Hindu Marriage Act 1955, it was never regarded as an ideal type of marriage among the Hindus. Finally, the modern lawmakers had made provision for it only under certain special circumstances. Finally, Medhatithi continuously adjusts and interprets Monu's laws for accommodating a new flex of people with their perspectives. Given the dynamic of a society when the Hindu legal scholars are conformed to conflicting legal directions, they revolved them in their own way to cope up with the change and demands of the society. Thank you.
Uh, Dr. Kripa Mukherjee has presented her paper. Uh, any question from anyone? Any question from anyone? No question. So thank you for presenting this paper, Dr. Kripa Mukherjee. Thanks to all who has joined this lecture.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.